Hey, what's up guys, it's Apollo Uchiha here, back with the final part of What If Naruto Love Found in Desert. Yes, this is going to be the final part of this series and it's going to be a single upload. And yeah, I kind of woke up late today and yeah, that's why I am behind my schedule. So today is going to be a single upload. And yeah, many of you guys suggested a lot of movies and I will upload all of them if I think of a better story. And yeah, one of you guys suggested that I upload what if Naruto was chosen as an angel and framed by his parents that he was the Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails while having two older siblings or younger ones. Well, if you like movie on that, then comment down below. I will post a movie tomorrow because I have figured out the story, and yeah, hopefully it will be to your liking. Yeah, if you haven't, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel if you like the content of this channel. And without further ado, let's begin our story. Gaara hated snow. It was everything sand wasn't. It was crunchy, not soft. It was wet, not dry. It was cold. Not that sand wasn't during the night, but snow was just inherently cold. Snow also got everywhere and stuck everywhere. The snow in her sandals was only adding to her irritation at the moment, not to mention her ability in the presence of moisture were even took more effort from her, which displeased her. Basically, she really hated snow. She had just gotten out of the Kage summit where they pretty much had agreed to go to war to stop Madara from obtaining Naruto. She was going to see him now, but it wasn't going to be the happy reunion she wanted. She knew that, but still, she was going to see him, even though she was going to tell Naruto that Sasuke had tried to kill her and that she had tried to kill him. Once again, Gaara found herself to be incredibly tired. Her last sleep in Naruto's arms was when she had just been brought back from the dead. That was a grand total of 6 months, 21 days, 4 hours and 6 minutes and 6 seconds. 7 seconds ago. The stress of Akatsuki of Naruto not coming back alive was eating at her. Even her upgraded Naruto hugging device made out of the new clothing she took from him during their last encounter wasn't helping at all at the moment. Naruto was already standing outside in the cold when Gaara arrived at his location. She noticed his scowl vanish as soon as his gaze quickly met hers. The simple fact that Gaara could make Naruto smile brought her happiness. It reassured her that she wasn't just being selfish and using Naruto, though he would be used as a pillow as soon as there was a moment to breathe, which may very well be in the next life. Right now, they had something to discuss. Gaara-chan, Naruto said happily. His eyes basically showed that he was begging for good news. It was unfortunate that Gaara did not have any good news to give Naruto. Naruto went to Gaara as soon as she was close enough. He quickly enveloped her in an embrace that showed how long he had missed her. She sighed in relief. Her stress vanished in that simple hug. They shared the embrace, close off from the cold snow around them and the eyes of their fellow ninja. The warmth was so nostalgic she wanted to stay like this for a while, away from everything. But Naruto had to ruin it, like he always does. What happened at the summit? Gaara sighed as she broke away from Naruto's warmth. Taking a step back from him, she then told him what transpired. The decision of the Kage Sasuke's assassination attempt, Gaara's battle with Sasuke. She spared no details. Watching Naruto's emotion flash with every stance, she saw rage at Sasuke's attack. She saw tenderness and relief that she was okay. She saw regret that he wasn't there to stop Sasuke. And that's what happened at the 5 Kage summit. Temari said, sighing, obviously irritated by the turns of events. The whole ordeal was needlessly stressful for everybody involved. There was still more bad blood between Kages and villages than there should be. Sasuke doesn't see you anymore. He seeks only darkness, Gaara said, a frown itching into her face. Her eyes were closed now. She had resolved to tell Naruto the truth and what she thought needed to be said. But she didn't have the resolve to see Naruto's face when she did. You once said to me you would become Hokage. Gaara opened her eyes to see the shock and hurt on Naruto's face. She took a step forward till she was within an arm's length of Naruto. I've become Kazekage. She placed her arms onto Naruto's feeling the cold warmth he offered at the moment. She couldn't help but rub his arms longingly. I know that you have resolved to take that mentality of Akage, so you must do what needs to be done. As Sasuke's friend. Their eyes met, a conflict of wills between them. Naruto knew that this decision was right. Naruto again knew that Gaara was right. Gaara knew that she was wrong, but again she knew that he was wrong as well. Naruto's eyes flickered away from her, looking down at the ground. The moment Naruto pushed her hand away hurt her a bit, but she wasn't surprised by his motion. He was a human after all. We've relayed everything we came to say. Temari interjected from the two, breaking the icy silence that was settling between Naruto and her little sister. Let's go, Gaara. Allowing her gaze to linger on Naruto for just a longer second, Gaara began to turn away from Naruto. She needed to tell him something, to make certain that this confrontation wasn't just a bitter one. She stepped away from Naruto, and from some distance stopped. She didn't turn to him, just clenched her fist and let the words flow out. I believe that I'm in love with you, Gaara said abruptly. Naruto's eyes widened slowly. He looked at her figure completely shocked. She still didn't turn back, staring ahead. She couldn't blame the tears brimming within her eyes on the snow. Before love was just some cruel joke tattooed on my forehead. It was something that only the weak had, something that would ultimately betray me. Gaara rolled her shoulders, standing straight and flexing her icy cold hands. Naruto always had warm hands, she realized. But after meeting you, I realized something, that love is important. We need it. Gaara let out a small chuckle as the first tear slipped off of her cheek. And I know that you love Sasuke as a brother. Gaara-chan. She heard Naruto mutter out. She turned to look at him. The slightest of smile graced her face as she allowed a few tears to flow free. Now you must decide for yourself on what you can do for your brother. I'll be waiting for you at the end. Naruto smiled. He nodded in understanding, his once depressed face now filled with determination. Sorry, Gaara-chan, Naruto muttered, but he meant so much more in those words. Let's go, Gaara said as she and her siblings took off, quite quickly darting through the air, leaving Naruto, who had a lot to think about, both regarding her confession and her decision. Link break. What are you doing on the battlefield? Gaara finally shouted after a while of wondering what he was doing currently. It was the adrenaline, probably. Oniki had just taken down the third, or was it second, Tsuchikage. Where Naruto's hell. Naruto, the same idiot that she was fairly certain she loved at this point, was on the battlefield. A battle that was taking place to make sure that he, more specifically, the QB that contained within him, didn't get obtained by Madara. Why did you come? Gaara shouted again, feeling actual anger building up inside of her. Didn't he not understand that for him, being here was ruining the whole point of this battle? There was fighting so that the QB would be safe. She was fighting so that he would be safe. Naruto just grimaced, looking sideways. Well, he made out in slightly anxiety. Gaara noted that his body radiated a golden chakra that seemed to give off heat. He appeared much happier since their last visit. His face twisted into a juvenile and embarrassed smile. I love you, Naruto offered with a hopeful smile. This was not how he planned on telling her, but he hoped it would get him away from this mess correctly. Gaara's eyes twitched. She couldn't take it anymore. She knew he was trying to get out of trouble. She knew he was just trying to buy time to think of an actual excuse, and she couldn't care less about that. He meant those words. She could feel it. Whoa! Naruto found himself being thrusted up by the sand beneath his feet, and was met by Gaara, who floated over to him on a sand plateau. Naruto's eyes widened. She wasn't certain what was different about his kiss. It could be the fact that Naruto was radiating chakra. It could be the fact that her heart was still pounding from the battle. It could be the fact that Naruto just said that he loved her. It could be the fact that she believed in him. Or it could be all of those things. But that kiss was utterly amazing. Now explain, Gaara demanded, dropping to the ground. And it better be good. Gara demanded while wiping her mouth and folding her arms in a no-moving stance. As interesting it is to watch you two lovebirds, there is still a battle going on, Onigi commented as he began to float off to the ground. Which is why I will brief you on the way. The voice of Shikaku Nara echoed throughout their heads. For a second, Gara thought that Shikaku had somehow ended up inside her head again. She was only off by a scowl. Shikaku Nara explained the reason why Naruto was there, leaving a rather amused Oniki and a slightly conflicted Gara. Naruto, Gara said abruptly, concern lacing out of her voice. I understand going from battle to battle, but are you certain you'll be able to use the Cubist chakra for so long? Naruto frowned briefly before smiling at her. She should really learn to trust. Don't worry, Gara-chan. I won't die until I do two things, Naruto said, grinning brightly at her. They maintained a look for a long moment as Gara tried to piece together what the two things were. Become a Hokage and what else? Gara asked, rather confused and ashamed that she didn't know what Naruto's other desires were. Naruto looked endearingly at her, prompting a nervous blush on her face. Marry you, Naruto said simply. He watched with delight as Gara's face went red at the thought, looking like she just ate something incredulously sour. Gara couldn't reply. She just muttered out a silent "oh," which produced chuckles from the blonde before her. She enjoyed the thought. Naruto wouldn't die until after he became Hokage and he married her. A sudden bout of anger surged out of her. Then at the thought of those requirements for Naruto that if you die right after we get married, I'm going to bring you back to life and kill you myself. Gaara's death threat caught Naruto by surprise and he nearly tripped over his own 2 feet. Right, got it, Gaara-chan. Link break. Why are you taking my head? Gaara, the fourth Kazekage, father of Rasa, and the reason why Shukaku was sealed inside Gaara, asking a puzzled and slightly concerned question. Rasa understood perfectly well that his daughter had every right to kill him, but wasn't the taking of the head against that? Was she taking a trophy or something? Gaara was literally decapitating him with a kunai. And while it didn't hurt or anything, he was creeped out, and the rest of his body was sealed thanks to her sand, so he couldn't retaliate. I read in a book that it is customary to ask somebody's father for their blessing before you propose to them. Gaara replied blandly as she finished decapitating her father. She held the former Kazekage by the scruff of his sand locks. Why would you want my blessing? Rasa asked. The small amount of respect he had gained for his scary little daughter was beginning to wane. I don't, but he might, Gaara said flatly as she dangled her father's head in her hand. They weren't making any eye contact. It wasn't something that they had honestly ever done. He's the reason I'm still alive and not enslaved by the demon you put up in me, Gaara said in a voice that was cold and uncaring. He sounds like a powerful ninja. What's his name? Rasa asked curiously. Surely he would have known about such an astounding ninja from his own village. Naruto Uzumaki, Jinchuriki of Kyuubi and future Hokage of Konoha, Gaara said with a smile. Rasa's face twisted into a frown. A foreign shinobi? And from Konoha of all places, I refuse. Link break. There were better times to go over marriage than in the middle of a deadly battlefield against one of the greatest threats known to the world. But then again, Gaara's pessimistic side was telling her that this would her last and only chance to get things such as this settled. Besides, it felt like this was the right moment. With every dead person coming to life and all, she arrived just as a tall blonde man appeared on the scene in a yellow flash. He looked a lot like Naruto with the exception of the signs of resurrection. Behind him was Naruto being healed by Sakura. Thank you for taking care of my son, Minato said happily, smiling while looking at Sakura. You wouldn't be happen to be my son's girlfriend, would you? Minato asked curiously, as he desperately tried to get more information about his son's life before he died again. Gaara scowled. That title belongs to me, Gaara said, walking up from behind Minato, still clutching Rasa's head by the hair. Who are you? Gaara asked confusedly. The man had called Naruto his son. Ah, my name is Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage of Konoha. Rasa raised his eyebrow, and then his eyes widened. So, he is your son, huh, Minato? Yes. More importantly, He's my dad. Isn't that cool, Gara-chan? Naruto said, cutting them off happily, allowing Sakura to continue healing him. Gara wasn't too fond of their close proximity. Rather ironic that he sealed the demon in his own child as well. Rasa commented with a chuckle. Why are you being carried around like that, Rasa? Minato asked, chuckling. The battle could wait a couple of more seconds. Besides, he wouldn't be able to focus on the fight after seeing something like that. Naruto needs to ask for his blessing to marry me, Gara said proudly as Rasa then found himself being flung through the air towards Naruto, who looked creeped out. She couldn't help but smile as Naruto fumbled Gara's head in horror, muttering apologies before catching Rasa upside down. Gara said with a emotionless bow, Lord Fourth, I wish to have your blessing in marrying your son. Like she was simply doing this for the formality. That's something only the would-be groom has to do. Minato said, chuckling at the odd little redhead. He couldn't help but think that while she looked a bit like Kushina with that brilliant red hair, the two were nothing alike. Kushina wouldn't actually decapitate someone and ask for his hand in a weird way, right? Flashing the possibilities, he asked, but who are you? Gara of the desert, fifth Kazekage of Suna. Gara said with a small blush, having embarrassed herself in front of Naruto's father. It was weird talking to a people that were supposed to be dead all day. Minato smiled at her and placed a hand on Gara's shoulder. Once this is over, take care of my son, okay? Minato said with a bit happiness making its way out. Now let's buy my son some time to recover, Minato said as he and Gara vanished in a flash and were on the battlefield in an instant. Naruto slowly turned Rasa's head back up straight. Hello? Naruto asked the rather silent, disembodied head. He looked in scrutiny. So you're the fourth Hokage's son? Rasa asked, raising an eyebrow. Naruto nodded slowly and nervously. He wasn't a big fan of ghosts, and this really felt really disturbing to him. And you wish to marry my daughter? Naruto blinked and nodded again. Rasa sighed. I lost all right to call myself her father, but she cares enough about you to give me a single chance to be it. Rasa frowned persisted as he stared hard on Naruto's eyes. This is a little creepy, Sakura muttered under her breath. Very well, Naruto, you have my blessing. Rasa's voice was just as gravelly as Gara's and twice as thick. Link break. The infinite Tsukiyomi had one benefit for Gara. It showed her exactly what she wanted out of her life. Once she was free, she found herself knowing exactly what she wanted from her and Naruto, which is why as soon as she found herself free from the technique, she went to find him. A simple feat, she focused. She had sealed some of her personal sand in Naruto's bracelet, hence she could always feel his general direction regardless of distance. It was rather disappointing that she couldn't get it to the sense distance, but at the moment she would go to the ends of the earth to find Naruto. Go, Kankuro said firmly as he wiggled his way out of the small cocoon Gara was trapped in a moment ago. Me and Temari will make sure somebody is in charge. Kankuro wasn't going to lead the ninja in her stead. He would delegate that responsibility to someone else, likely Shikamaru or one of the other Kages. It was too much work. Thank you, brother, Gara said happily as she bolted away on the cloud of sand. She wanted the family that both her and Naruto were denied. She wanted children, to watch them grow up the way Naruto and her parents never did or could. She wanted to have a family with Naruto. That's what her dream in the infinite Tsukiyomi was. After traveling at max speed for hours, Gara eventually found them, Team 7 limping their way back to the others. Sakura was supporting Sasuke as they walked onwards, and Kakashi was supporting Naruto. Gara stood on the path in front of them and smiled at Naruto. He had done it. Much like he had brought her out of the darkness all those years ago. He had dragged Sasuke out of the same darkness, kicking and screaming. And it only cost him one limb. Naruto smiled, looking up and seeing Gara standing in their path. She had never looked more beautiful in that moment. A pleasant smile adorned on her face. Shaking his arm off of Kakashi's shoulder, Naruto increased his pace towards her. He stumbled a bit and was about to fall, but Gara held him up. The two looking deep into each other's eyes. Gara-chan, what is it, Naruto? The two were embarrassed in a hug that showed that it was the beginning. That they would be together from now henceforth, and no village, no shinobi, no force would keep them apart. Naruto stared at her warmly, a wide and teasing smile threatening to split his face open. I'm tired. 1 hour, 5 minutes, 11, no, 10 seconds later. For once, Gara was counting down to something instead of counting how long it's been. She was already done with today. She was done with it yesterday. For the sake of tradition, she had been forced to not sleep with Naruto. She had a perfect, good opportunity to fall asleep with Naruto, but she was denied. She regretted not taking him up on the offer to just sign the papers and call it done. She regretted listening to the daimyos of the Land of Fire and the Land of Wind saying that they would like to attend an official ceremony, something about strengthening international relationships. Gara smiled. That was all the event was going to be. A meeting and greet of powerful people. All 5 of the current Kages were gathered in this spot as well as numerous daimyos. Bleh. Gara forced out a choking sound, grunting in irritation as Sakura tightened one of the sashes on her brilliant pure white dress. The sash was dull blue, signifying her village's color. It cascaded of crimson down her back. Sorry, Gara-chan. Sakura apologized, huffing as she continued to fuss with the dress. Why am I the one doing this? Sakura asked, glaring at Temari and Matsuri, who were just sitting in their corner while Sakura ferreted over Gara's dress. Temari spared an arched eyebrow, a slight amusement twinkling within her orbs. You are doing a pretty good job, from what I'm saying. Besides, too many cooks spoil the soup. Right, Matsuri? Matsuri nodded with a kind smile that sent an apology to Sakura, who groaned at the comment. What a way to accept yourself. She wasn't paying attention and unconsciously tightened the sash again to Gara's discomfort and annoyance. Her eyes narrowed as she tried to breathe. Be careful or I'll crumble to sand. Gara weakly warned, adjusting the sashes again, effectively undoing what Sakura had just done. She didn't know why Sakura, were putting up such a fuss about it. She already knew that Naruto thought she was beautiful and that he thought she was most beautiful when she was just waking up. Gara didn't want to outdo that with an event that would only happen once. She didn't want a one-time event to be when Naruto thought she was most beautiful. She wanted to be the most beautiful every morning. She wanted to be the most beautiful to him every day. You're doing it because Temari is a tomboy, Matsuri pointed out, trying to place an infuriated Sakura with a smirk on her face. And I'm colorblind. Temari shrugged at the excuse, not caring to support the argument. Sakura knew it was a bullshit excuse, though true. Matsuri also knew it was bullshit. It wasn't that she didn't care. She just wasn't cut out for these kind of things. Perhaps during her own wedding she could correct that. I'm wearing white and blue though, Gara said, blinking at her friend. Matsuri was just being lazy. In her thought, that does not excuse Temari at all. And besides, isn't Sakura a tomboy? A growl from Sakura and a sudden tug from a small playful smile on her face. True, Temari said, relaxing into her chair even further. There's also the fact that if any of us touch the dress, Sakura will snap at us. I will not, Sakura snapped at them. Just someone come over here and hold this a bit. Matsuri stood up and barely grabbed the piece of cloth Sakura had designated. Gara frowned, feeling her clothing suddenly shifted in an unexpected way. Why is there so much sand? Sakura whined, while she continued to work on the dress. A tug her here, a tug there. Damn it, Matsuri. You're doing that wrong. Give it here. Temari snorted. See? Told ya. She laughed, swirling the drink in her hand. She'd be of drinking age for 3 months, and she was already a bit of a vino. And she called Gara of the desert for a reason. Sakura. Matsuri, Gara muttered grumpily as Sakura continued to huff and puff about their dress. Weren't weddings supposed to be happy events? Sakura getting so stressed out about it. Oh right, Sakura loves stress. Yes, Gara, Matsuri asked, already knowing what Gara was going to ask. She had been making the same demand nearly every 15 minutes. Matsuri couldn't help but let some of the annoyance slip into her tone. Go tell Naruto I'm tired, Gara said, wincing as Sakura adjusted her dress for the upteenth time. He says he knows. Matsuri, Temari and Sakura all echoed instantly, dry expression on their face. None of you left though, Gara pointed out, looking around the room with what could be considered a pout. You had all of us go tell him that at least once. Temari sighed out. Besides, it's almost time to get started, Gaara grumbled, in response allowing Sakura to position her arms once again. My feet hurts, Gaara complained simply. Hold on, Gaara, I'm not done. Sakura finally snapped at the bride. Sakura, if you don't stop, I'm going to walk out there naked. Gaara's tone left little room for argument, and Sakura backed away instantly. She would certainly do it. It'd be rather funny watching the world leader squawk as she walked down the aisle completely nude. Gaara simply fondly smiled, wondering what Naruto would do. Over the last couple of years, he had proven to be utterly amazing as a fiancé. If she had been just wearing one of his shirts when she walked out, he'd probably quickly take her to bed. For sleep and other bad activities, straight naked though, Gaara could see Naruto's jealous side coming out and attempting to quickly make everybody not look at her, or if he would strip down and join her in a rather tasteless prank. And she knew she wouldn't like the looks he would get. Gaara, I don't trust that look on your face, Temari warned, standing up. Sometimes watching could be boring. After a while, not that she was going to join. What look on my face? Gaara asked, quickly touching her face in confusion. She spoke like it was the norm of the day. I was just thinking about walking down the aisle naked. Gaara! Sakura snapped in shock. Was Naruto-kun also naked? Mastery asked curiously, a slight blush full of perverseness creeping in. It seemed reading those novels alongside Gaara had made their minds a little bit more free. Gaara nodded and Matsuri squealed in delight. Sakura couldn't help but groan while Temari rolled her eyes. I wonder how everything is going with the boys, Temari mused. It was very likely that Naruto would be pacing back and forth trying to make sure that his suit was on one straight while constantly freaking out about not everybody being in their correct seats. It was just so easy to picture Naruto being only overly stressed about their wedding. Link break. So, why aren't you freaking out? Shikamaru lazily drawled, watching Naruto put the final touches on his wardrobe. A standard, well-fitted black suit with a white shirt underneath. Altogether, he looked fairly presentable, which was surprisingly considering the person he had grown up with. To be honest, this made him a little suspicious, but he figured boys will be men. That thought was related by Naruto's next statement. Because I'm a shadow clone, Naruto said in a tone that made people question if he was joking or not. Ruka looked at him with an arched brow. Shikamaru frowned at the joke. Everybody knew that important Gaara was to Naruto. Surely he wouldn't have a shadow clone marry her. That would just be cruel, and also a very quick and painful way to die. And considering he was going to be looked at for explanations, he wasn't going to like the outcome. Naruto ruffled his blonde hair, wondering, do you think I would swap it for the orange shirt? The hag said no orange. Sai commented blandly as usual while he entered the tent. Tsunade says it's time. Awesome, Naruto said, jumping in excitement. He paused as soon as he landed to straighten out his suit once again. Let's get this show on the road, Naruto shouted happily. Shikamaru lagged behind with Iruka. You don't think that's actually a shadow clone, do you? Shikamaru asked suspiciously. Naruto isn't that stupid, Shikamaru. Give your future Hokage a little bit of faith, Iruka said laughingly, holding the flap open for Shikamaru. Surely Naruto wouldn't do something like that. It was just a joke, right? He wondered. Link break. Naruto stood tall and proud, his signature grin splitting his whiskers features. Behind him stood Shikamaru, his best man. Sai and Kiba were playing their roles as groomsmen. He was a little saddened by Sasuke's decision to ignore that event, but it was likely Sasuke didn't even know it was happening given his current journey of self-discovery. It was still a jerk move though. He would give him T-rank missions for this affront. Opposing him stood Gaara, bridesmaid. The only one of the official couples on the stages was Shikamaru and Temari. How odd was it that an attack on the village all those years ago could bring about so much love? And if the looks could give a hint, Kiba and Matsuri were sharing was an indication. There would be yet more love between the wind and fire. Sakura stood between both Temari and Matsuri as Gaara's bridesmaid. Before him stretched far more people than Naruto had even expected there to be. Most of it was due to the two daimyos who were sitting nearly each other, pleasant smiles on their elderly faces. They had gone out of the way to fund and host the event, rather eager to strengthen the ties between the two nations. There were even rumors of an arranged marriage taking place between some of the minor families members of the two great leaders. The Kage currently and formerly all sat in the front two rows near the daimyos. The rifts that once divided countries were closed, and an era of peace was being formed. Naruto couldn't help but wonder if Jiraiya and Grandma Chiho was smiling down at what he and Gaara had brought about. And it was all thanks to a crazy madman trying to take over the world. Who would have wondered? Peace at their time. It was comforting thought. Naruto smiled, a fond smile on his face. This was the world he wished his children were to be born into. Naruto's wondering thoughts were halted as all the noise stopped. Gaara appeared at the end of the aisle. Baki's stoic face didn't even break into a smile as he simply performed the duty of Gaara's father to give her away. It was better than Gaara's suggestion to hold her father's reanimated head from the handing over ceremony. That suggestion earned a lot of disapprovals. A lot. Especially from Naruto. For Gaara's part, she walked forward with a bundle of orange flowers. Popeyes most likely. A small delight smile could be seen on her and red-stained lips. Naruto's smile couldn't get any longer if he wanted it to. Walking towards him was the first piece of something he'd been missing for a long time. Walking towards him wasn't the Kage of the hidden village of the sand. Walking towards him wasn't the former container of Shikaku. Walking towards him was his future wife, the first piece of his family. Suddenly, Iruka, Tsunade, and Sakura were his family. But it wasn't the same. With Gaara it was different. Totally different. Gaara's pace almost quickened when she saw Naruto standing there, looking happy and handsome. She knew she had rushed him with the proposals during the Fourth Shinobi War, but Naruto had grabbed her hand and helped her spring along the way, gleefully sprinting with their usual relationship that was based around sleeping, which was exactly what she was going to do with her tall, blonde, whiskered teddy bear as soon as they were done with this. It was then halfway to the altar that realization set on both of them. A sudden giddiness that years of kissing and love was about to suddenly mean something more. Together they were together. But now they were seconds away from being together in the eyes of the world. This was a story telling you that no matter how low you start, no matter how deep into the darkness you fall, no matter how much the world hates you, no matter what atrocities you committed, there was and always will be hope. You can overcome the hatred. You can be brought back into the light. You can be redeemed. You can become great. And you can experience love. There is always hope. All it requires is that someone willing to share your burden every step of the way, willing to protect you from your vulnerabilities, and will accept your support in his travels also. Gaara smiled, looking at Naruto. She found hers. The message of unity that their relationship was going to spread throughout the world wasn't even so on the radar on Naruto's nor Gaara's mind. Their thoughts were much more simple. Love, happiness, and excitement. And weeks of being calm and collected about the weddings were suddenly made null as anxiety began to flood them. Their eyes met for the 100th time during that walk. They would not separate again. "You look tired," Naruto whispered at Gaara as she approached. Gaara nodded, her pleasant smile growing slightly at that. Tired had become something more than meaning sleepy to the both of them. Tired to Naruto and Gaara meant that they wanted to spend their time with each other. It was a simple union of togetherness that confused everybody else in the world. Both of them, it was just how they showed love. "Are we allowed to talk up here?" Gaara whispered back, her grin smile not vanishing, even as she watched Naruto make a face and shrug his shoulder. Gaara gave a slight chuckle that made Naruto's stomach flutter. "Doesn't matter," Iruka whispered, standing in between the two. Naruto Uzumaki, Gaara of the desert, turned to face each other and joined hands. Iruka's voice boomed and carried out throughout the crowd. Years of being a teacher and finally paid off. We stand here today, coming from all corners of the world as friends and allies, to witness the union between Naruto Uzumaki and Gaara of the desert. Iruka smiled as he gazed at the young couple. They eyes firmly locked onto each other. The bride and groom have prepared their vows. Gara smiled. Truth to be told, she was using a modified version of the wedding code from one of the Uchiha books, but only a few people in the audience would recognize it, or so she thought. Apparently, there were a lot of closet perverts in the elemental nations. Gara looked at Naruto, letting the words flow off her lips. Naruto-kun. Random chances seems to have operated in our favors and brought us together. My heart is enlarged by your gentle strength, and I find peace in your presence. For your smile which warms my heart, your smile which pours with love. Naruto pupils shimmered with tears. Gara looked at him truthfully. This was her words, her heart. And at the leaping of my heart, I cry out, you are mine. Through rising suns and darkness stars, through peaceful times and troubled days, through smiles and through sadness, I commit myself to you, Naruto Uzumaki, to fan your wheels of fire, to support your dreams, and to support your unceasingly as long as our heart still beats. Gara. Naruto gulped lack of control over his emotions. Gara slowly blinked, watching Naruto's smile twitch ever so brightly, and a single tear began to worm its way out of Naruto's eyes. He brushed it away with his bandaged arm, smiling brightly at her again. His mouth then moved. In you, I find beauty and enjoyment in the simplest of the things. My desires are ignited and satisfied in one clear sweep. Your love is like a dream that became a reality and spread throughout the stars. From the look in your eyes and the sound of your voice and the leaping of my heart, I cry out, she is mine. Through bright suns and waning moons, through celebrated victories and dangerous journeys, through life, decisions, ramens and sakuras, medicines, I will commit myself to you, to encourage you, to support your dream, to love you unrelentingly, as long as we both draw breath. Naruto smiled as he said these lines, then he came up with, after learning of Gara's idea. She was so surprised to find out that those lines actually came from him. It was a spur of the moment thing with Jiraiya, so the words had extra meaning for Naruto. The rings were delivered by a young aspiring shinobi from Suna and a young aspiring Konoichi from Konoha, both of which looked at two of the greatest ninja in the world in awe. Naruto and Gara took each other's rings and smiled. Sabuko no Gara. With this ring, I submit myself to you, Naruto said, slipping the ring gingerly onto Gaara's peptide hand. Uzumaki Naruto, with this ring I submit myself to you, Gaara said, placing her ring onto Naruto's unbandaged hand. I will pronounce you husband and wife. Iruka practically shouted, the excitement within him building to its maximum. Before him stood Naruto, the little troublemaker he thought of as a brother, now marrying someone that once tried to destroy the leaf. The world was an unusual place. You may kiss the bride. Naruto grinned. Like I needed your permission. Gaara and Naruto shared a smile as they slowly approached one another, and the inches dragged on for miles before them as they slowly moved forward. His hand went around her back. Her hand cupped his cheeks lovingly. She began to purse his lips, and he did the same. Their first kiss was as husband and wife. Poof! A sound could be heard. Gaara stood there frozen and unblinkingly as Naruto vanished, his suit falling to the ground with nobody to sustain its form. The crowd gasped in shock. Iruka had a stroke. No, coma. No, both. Shikamaru felt like a ghost leaving his body. Gaara was going to slaughter them all. He was terrified. Why was his life so troublesome? He thought, troublesome plants. That idiot! Every single person from the village hidden in the leaves said at once. Gaara looked around, seeing her husband wasn't around, and simply smiled as she saw his clothes laying on the ground. With a small smile that would scare people in the dark alley, Gaara simply waved her hands at the wedding guest before she crumbled into sand. Link break. Hours away at their designated honeymoon location, Naruto and Gaara stirred from a midway nap. The memories of their clones flooded into them like a pleasant dream. A pleasant breeze fluttered into the room from the opening door. Official wedding documents lay under a heavy kunai, signed and waited to be documented. Random bits of clothing scattered the floor and other furniture. I guess we're married now, Naruto said, stretching as he examined the ring on his finger. The real ring, not the fake left at the ceremony. Gaara stood behind him. He remembered how beautiful she looked at the wedding. But right now, with her rested half-asleep eyes and dressed and pretty only one of his t-shirts. Gara was the most beautiful he'd ever seen her. Yeah, Gara said, smiling, bringing her ring hand up to meet Naruto's. They laid there watching the rings in the light of the briefest moments. Do you think they're mad that we weren't really at the wedding? Naruto asked, concerned as how he allowed his arms to flop down to the bed with a flop. Gara fell to his chest, where she began to play with a few of his blonde strands and sparse chest hair. She plucked it quickly. You are known as number one hyperactive, unpredictable knucklehead ninja. Gara smiled at the nickname was something that Naruto loathed. Why did Kakashi have to tell her that? So, a normal wedding just wouldn't be you. I think Sakura will be the most annoyed. Maybe Choji. We didn't take our cake. I'm married to an adorable red-haired sand chipmunk. Naruto said, smiling as he laid a tender kiss on Gaara's forehead, just on top of her symbol of love. Gaara squirmed under the kiss and the description Naruto gave her. She hated being described as a chipmunk. She didn't see the relationship to the small rodents that were scattered about the land of fire. And I married the best teddy bear ever. Gaara said, smilingly, twisting her arms to be more on top of Naruto, aligning her face with his. She slowly kissed him, their first kiss as husband and wife, a real one, not a clone one. A small, loving that thing that neither one of them could get enough of. It burned like a small furnace, the passion that was inside of them. It was the experienced kiss of love, one that allowed them to show just how much they loved each other. I am not a teddy bear, Naruto growled. Gaara separated their lips and chuckled, escaping from hers. The lost blanket that was covering their folded behind Gaara, who was straddling him now, her bare legs brushing against his pajamas pants. Her left hand drew circles on his bare chest. You are totally a teddy bear. Gaara, smilingly brightly at Naruto, said, leaning down for their second kiss as husband and wife. It was filled with just as much as love and passion as the one that they shared, but there was something more in the kiss. It was a hungry kiss. As Gaara bit Naruto's lips, she couldn't help but smile. Now it's time to get started on the rest of your present, Gaara said with a bright smile. Naruto groaned as he tried to sit up, but Gaara's hands kept him in place. What's the rest of my present? Naruto asked confusedly. Our family, Gaara said with a dry lust in her voice. Naruto grinned perversely, showing once and for all that he had actually inherited something from his late master, as Jiraiya was smiling at them from the heaven. Not a happy smile. Yes, obviously it was happy, but a lecherous one, with a thumbs up expression on his face. On to the story. Gaara had spent much of her life living with Shukaku, constantly trying to get her to do the unspeakable. Kill that guy, crush that woman, pulverize those puppies. The list of his demands were numerous and creepy. The newest parasite being to take up residence within her mind was much more demanding. Chocolate cake, raspberries, and a few times to her loving husband's utter delight, ramen. And like the creature before it, her growling child refused to let her get any sleep. And yet, her beloved teddy bear was snoring away peacefully while his spawn was apparently in the middle of a spar with her organs. Also, he wanted something sweet and cold. No, wait, hot. She wanted hot fudge ice cream. Naruto, the blonde future Hokage, savior of the land, snored oh so slightly irregularly at that. Gaara couldn't see his face this time. It had grown awkward to lay facing Naruto, but being spooned by him wasn't bad either, though his hands often wandered to one of her breasts while the other fondled her swollen stomach. Not that she could blame him, both of those areas has gotten huge. Her stomach was roughly the size of a ramen bowl. A large one, Naruto, Gaara said once again. This time she grabbed his hand that was groping her breast. She attempted to pull it away from her sleeping husband's hand, practically snapped back into reality. She voicely wondered if Sakura and Tsunade had snuck some of Jiraiya's DNA into Naruto's synthetic limb. There's some time Naruto awoke, and with a jaw-stretching yawn, snuggling back into the nape of Gaara's neck, just below her long red hair. Was it Gaara? Gaara frowned, not because of Naruto's awakening, nor because of the tightness of his grip on her breast, nor her darling unborn child was deciding that now was a good time to come out into the world. The bed was wet. It also still wanted the ice cream. Gara, Naruto asked, slightly more awake now. He lazily rubbed out of the crust of his eyes. You okay? Gara sat up suddenly. Her muscles were contracting. Go get Sakura. Huh? Naruto said, a crawling sense of panic contracting Gara's natural calm tone. She's all the way in Konoha. Gara sighed as chose to forgive her husband for being an idiot. Sakura had insisted that she stay with them in Suna until the baby was born. That was over a week ago. Naruto, the baby is coming. Go get Sakura. The baby is coming. Naruto repeated. Gara watched his blue eyes blink at that, and then widened constantly. That the baby is coming? Holy shit! Naruto shouted as that statement woke him up like a cold shower in the morning. Go get Sakura! Gara repeated while Naruto stood up and began to panic. What do I do? What do I do? Naruto asked in a panic. He was out of the bed in a second, attempting to help Gara up. Wait, no. You should lay down, right? Get Oh wait, I know. I should go get Sakura. She's here, right? Okay. You stay right here and don't panic, okay? Panicking is not going to help. Oh wait, we're supposed to do those breathing exercises, right? Okay, wait. Breathe with me. In, out, in and out, in and out, in and out. Wait, what am I doing? I need to get Sakura. Okay, I love you, both of you. Don't panic. Sakura's awesome and this. Hold on, I'll be right back. Gara was just befuddled. She watched Naruto run around the room twice before he finally left. Sakura was that far, but she wondered if she should have made Naruto wear more clothes other than just his froggy boxer shorts. Gazing at her protruding stomach, she felt a kick. Her natural response was to poke back. You better not inherit your father's motor mouth. The child didn't respond. Gara took this as a good sign. Sakura-chan. Gara heard her incredulously loud husband's voice echo throughout the walls of her home. An impressive feat considering that sound didn't bounce well over hardened sand. What? Sakura was carried out as far. Naruto, what the hell are you doing? Put some pants on. Naruto sounded curious. Why are you naked? Gara had to remind herself that she loved Naruto dearly. She also had to remind herself that she was the one to make him impregnate her. It's hot in Suna, you idiot. Now get out of my room. Wait, oh yeah, the baby's coming. There was a long silence pause. Gara voicedly wondered if Sakura had killed her husband. Given the current state of things, she wouldn't be too terrible upset until she tried to sleep again. Her eyes once again drifted towards her rounded stomach. Baby will be a good substitute. The baby is coming. This one was Sakura's as there was a sudden slamming noise. You idiot! Why didn't you say sooner? Gara was once again happy that she had convinced Naruto that Shikamaru and Temari would be much better godparents than Sakura and Sasuke. Their feelings compounded when Sakura came bragging in wearing nothing but a bathrobe. Sakura herself was also 3 months pregnant, still a long time till her due date, so she wasn't exactly showing. Throughout the entire breathing procedure, it was Gara that remained calm. Even the very experienced Sakura, who had overseen the births of more children than Gara would ever care to hear, was in a panic. Gara blamed Sakura's pregnant state and more or less missing husband. It was Gara that told them that she should be in the tub. It was Gara who kept track of her contractions. Their regularity was something she found a brief bit of enjoyment in. It was Gara who reminded Sakura that she was the midwife. It was Naruto that squeezed Gara's hand. Gara had decided to do a home birth. The reasons were rather simple. She was good friends with the best medical ninja. She was having a healthy pregnancy. She wanted to freely be able to snuggle with her teddy bear. And lastly, something along the line, she obtained Naruto's distant for hospital. The birth was ended with a plop. 32 minutes 16 seconds since her water broke. Wow, Sakura said loudly. She was quick to cut the umbilical cord with a chakra scalpel. That has to be the easiest birth I have done. Gara stared at Sakura. She wanted to walk over to her baby, but her legs were filled with sand. Having Shukaku removed was more painful. The dryness in her voice earned her a chuckle from Naruto and a snort from Sakura. All I'm saying is that you should have like 50 kids with how easy that was, Sakura said in a half-sleep voice. She handed the already silent bundle to Gara and let out a yawn. For Suna, I am required to have 3 children, Gara said plainly as she examined her newborn baby. She had hoped that she would feel some sort of motherly love right off the bat for her child. It was small, pink, and had a horn made of wispy red hair, with 2 whisker marks on each cheek. Gara tear-eyes met her child's blue eyes. She had no connection to this creature she just gave birth to. Is it a boy or a girl? Naruto finally asked. He moved over to Gaara's shoulder to look at this child. Huh? Sakura asked in confusion. She could have sworn that she had told them it's a boy. Gaara could see the instant love in Naruto's eyes. She watched in amazement as he tenderly brought a finger down to poke the silent child's nose. Hey there, little guy. I'm your daddy. The child squirmed at the touch and let out a small grunt. Sakura sat down on her chair and looked at the newly formed family. Gaara seemed off somehow. You two decided a name on it? Well, how about it, Mom? He's got your hair. Naruto had agreed for her that whoever the child got their hair from was going to get to name it. It was the only way he was going to get a child, called Boruto. Gaara started and stared at her son. The child was fussing. Almost without thinking, she brought it to her exposed breast and the child began sucking. It was a strange sensation, Arashi. The name wasn't even one that she was considering before now. Arashi Uzumaki. She repeated, feeling his weight. Naruto looked at her and smiled brightly. I like it. Yeah, I'm very happy and stuff. Any questions or can I go to bed? Sakura rubbed her eyes. Naruto spoke first and pointed at Gaara's chest, brushing against the breast that was not being occupied by Arashi. Does she get to keep those? Sakura examined Gaara's swollen chest, briefly resisting the urge to pat her still rather a flat chest. Some do, some don't. They're too big, Gaara complained. She didn't like them. They were heavy and moved too much. I don't like them. Naruto smiled at her. Me and Arashi do. Sakura let out a deep sigh at her idiot teammate. Anything else? Gaara looked at her child one last time, then looked at Sakura. Then finally at Naruto. When she was born, her mother had sacrificed herself so that she could protect her. That was the kind of love Gaara was expecting to feel. The same kind of love she felt for Naruto. The love where she would do absolutely anything for them. Why don't I love my child? The room dropped 5 degrees. Postpartum depression, Sakura said grimly. It's uncommon but rare, especially among shinobi. Naruto wisely sat and listened as he squeezed Gaara's hand gently. What exactly are you feeling for your child? Gaara examined Arashi. Why did she feel when she looked at her child? Her son. There wasn't anything really. Nothing. I thought there was supposed to something that would make me want to give my life to make certain he lived. Gaara then blinked and looked at Naruto. She didn't like the frown on his face. I don't want to be like my father. Naruto simply held his wife for a long time. He was uncertain when Sakura left. He didn't even remember when Gaara started to cry. Probably the ninth time. He said they'd get through this together. Link break. 6 months passed and Gaara noted a few things changed. One was that she could be a mother and she did love her son. The second one was that Arashi was very quiet, very silent and very curious. The third was that her son had inherited her Kekkei in a very unusual way. The fourth and most troublesome, that she would forever curse herself for naming her son after a storm. Gaara! Gaara looked up from the stack of papers that had somehow developed during her pregnancy. There had always been paperwork, but apparently the village fell apart if she had to leave for a few weeks to give birth to one of their future leaders. She put sand in the tea of one of the counselors that made a comment about why a woman shouldn't lead. Matsuri bragged into the room, her reddened face filled with panic. Arashi-kun is flying. Sorry about that. Oh my god. Anyways, on to the story. Gaara blinked, more confused than shocked. What? Arashi, he started floating and then he started flying and I couldn't catch him. He kept avoiding me and even Kanguro can't catch him with his puppets. What of Naruto? Doesn't he have some sort of flying ability or something? Matsuri blinked in confusion. Gaara, Naruto's been gone for a while. He's in Konoha. Oh. Gaara briefly wondered which was more worrisome, her flying son or Kankuro trying to catch him with the sorcery puppet of his. I will go retrieve him. True to Matsuri's word, her son was flying. The wind was swirling around him, cuddling him almost. His wing wild red hair was swirling about, dancing to the flow of the wind. Arashi flung himself about to look at his mom. He smiled as soon as he saw her. Gaara, on her cloud of sand, couldn't help but smile at her son's small, joyous smile. He had no concept of wrong, but he could recognize her face and Naruto's instantly. He was always smiling at them. Arashi, come to me, she said in her Kazekage tone. The wind met with her sand and started flinging it about. She had to carefully navigate a pillar of compacted sand in order to reach her son. Arashi stared at his mom and attempted to swim closer to her. It didn't work. In frustration, whatever technique or chakra manipulation he was using stopped in an instant. Her son was falling nearly 50 feet. Given in a moment, thought Gaara would have simply caught Arashi with a sand, but her motherly instinct kicked in. She leapt from her sand cloud after Arashi. Arashi let out a rare cry when she reached him. Wrapping herself around her crying child, Gaara braced from the impact. She slammed against the side of the building before tumbling down into the cold wooden arm of Kankuro's puppet. Gaara, Kankuro asked concernedly, you and Arashi are okay? Now safe, Gaara examined her child, who smiled at her the same way Naruto did when she found him doing something stupid. I believe my son has inherited his father's sense of adventure. When Naruto returned to Suna, he was rather curious why his son was on a leash and harness on him, and why his wife had a cast on. Link break. Gaara had a great deal of contempt for the council of her village. She certainly respected them, but they were practically in that they reduced her paperwork load by a great deal. But at time when they asked her for something beyond her duty, such as right now when herself and Naruto were standing before her council with the current Hokage Kakashi joining in, Kakashi had sought to enroll the 2-year-old son into an early program in Konoha, given his ability to manipulate the wind like Gaara could sand. When Naruto brought the idea to Gaara, she was almost ready to agree, although that would mean her 2-year-old son would be spending a lot of more time in Konoha, which would not be a bad thing once the train was built between the villages, cutting the journey from a full day to 2 hours. Everything was okay until her council discovered that she was planning on sending her child to train in Konoha. Even after the war and all these years of peace, none of them wanted who they saw as a future Kazekage go to any other village for training. We're not taking your future ruler away, Kakashi drawled out, looking half asleep and half ready to throw his hat at Naruto. Our aim is to simply help Arashi become the best ninja he can be, and we have a it's bad enough that Gaara chosen your future Hokage as a husband. We will not be having our future leader be taught to be loyal to Konoha. One counselor interjected. Oddly enough, it wasn't one of the older ones. It was a younger member that Gaara had elected in hopes his view would be more liberal. Something being patriotic was a bad thing. We wouldn't be training him to be loyal to Konoha. Sakura, who was at the head of the program, said firmly. It's an early. Gaara looked at her husband, who was sitting right beside her, holding her hand tightly. A small smile was on his face as he started to stare off into space. She was at first mad that he wasn't paying attention to this discussion, but then realization crept in that it was an incredibly stupid conversation. The council had no say on what she did for her son. Due to the alliance, due to the treaty, due to the Arashi's last name, they couldn't touch him, at least not directly. The council could make her life hell until she got fed up and fired them all by removing the current floor of the building. She had filled it with sand once when they first scolded her about marrying Naruto. It was her life and her family. Suna would not be weaker for this bond. They needed to know that. We're not sending the Kazekage's only child to Konoha, one of the elders shouted, getting a round of nods of approval from their fellow followers. Gaara examined the floor as the discussion was getting heated, largely because Kakashi was letting the emotional Sakura speak for them. It almost looked like he was rereading Volume 2 of Uchiha, a classic. From the depth of the pages, she could see it looked like he was close to the part where Nezumi and Tarya had a heated. An idea struck Gaara then. Without warning, she stood up sharply, dragging a puzzled Naruto up with her. You are saying that this is a problem because of my only child, correct? The council turned to Gaara in a silence befalling over them. They blinked. Well, yes. Naruto looked at his wife. He liked The way she was squeezing his hand. Good. Things always followed. Well, then the issue is settled. I apologize for bringing you out here for nothing, Hokage-sama, Gaara said swiftly. Sakura-san, could you watch over Arashi for a few hours? The pink-haired woman blinked at her red-haired friend. I don't think Sarada would mind, but why? We're going to make another child. The room fell into silence as the Kazekage dragged her husband out of the room. The last sound on the way out was Naruto's soft, sweet. Good things did follow in his thought. And this is where I'm going to be leaving this story off, guys. I hope you like this one, and if you do, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel if you like the content of this channel. And yeah, this is Apollo Uchiha and I'm signing out. Peace.